Du Plessis will beat Israel Adesanya at UFC 305. I am tired of MMA fans counting out DDP in his fight against Adesanya. The same MMA fans celebrating that Israel Adesanya had gotten exposed by a basic Sean Strickland all of a sudden are not giving DDP a chance in this fight and are making a pick, I believe, based on fear. I am very confident that in this fight, most MMA YouTubers that you watch will say, Israel Adesanya by KO. He's too technical, too good of a striker, and DDP is sloppy. And in this video, I'm going to remind you who Israel Adesanya and DDP are as fighters. The early Izzy KO fans, the people that are picking Izzy by KO, are falling for the bait. I get it. I know they believe that because Izzy has a chip on his shoulder, because he had a bad performance in his last fight, that we will see a prime gyno Izzy who all of a sudden, again, has insane KO power. And as a MMA fan, anything could really happen in a fight. I will admit that KO by Izzy is possible, but I am going to explain why it is not plausible. Even though it is possible, like I just said, I don't think it's very likely. Izzy's best KO as champ has been over Robert Whittaker in the first fight, who was coming off the Romero fight and has never been known for durability. His KO over Paulo Costa, who as time has gone by has shown that he's not that good. I mean, just look at Costa's fight against Strickland and then look at DDP's fight against Strickland. Just different, man. DDP has shown a different level of grit and fight IQ. And then Alex Pereira too was basically a fluke. Pereira was starting to break down Izzy before he fell for the bait. He got KO'd with the right hand, which, to be fair to Alex Pereira, he was doing a massive weight cut just to be at middleweight. And, that definitely played a role. I mean, just look at his durability at 205. And also, as the great Lucas Tracy likes to say, Izzy KO is only live for the first 2 rounds, which is very true. Every time Izzy has gone to a decision as champ, it has been a stinky, lackluster decision. Look at his fight against Yoel Romero. Nothing really happened. His fight against Marvin Vettori too. I thought the fight was a lot closer. A lot of those rounds were very competitive. It was in a fight where Izzy was doing a lot. It was a very lackluster fight from Izzy, even though I think he clearly won the fight. Now, the fight against Robert Whittaker, the second fight, a stinker of a fight. His fight against Jared Cannonier, a stinker of a fight. So every time that Israel Adesanya goes past the second round, not only does he go to a decision, but he goes to lackluster, stinky decisions where he arguably lost those fights. It is clear that once you get into the later rounds with Israel Adesanya, his lethalness drops substantially. What does Izzy do best? Feints, calf kicks, counters, left hook counter, very durable, range management, and his speed. What does Israel Adesanya do bad? Doesn't have the best grappling. Easy to take down. I mean, Marvin Vettori was able to do it. Lack of boxing fundamentals. Strickland showed that. And does not react well to pressure. Do you see the vision? C is still a very underrated fighter. Now, I will not go on here and tell you that DDP is a superior striker. But I do believe that even though DDP is not as clean as Israel Adesanya, I believe he can be just as effective on the feet. I mean, we have seen Izzy fights, and he has shown in his fights that you do not have to be elusive on the feet like him to beat him. I mean, just look at how successful Kelvin Gastelum was on the feet against Israel Adesanya. I mean, Israel Adesanya went life and death against a Kelvin Gastelum who got schooled by Robert Whittaker, who's been schooled by other fighters. And he had a lot of success against Israel Adesanya, even though he's short and stocky. And you're telling me that Dricus Du Plessis cannot have the same amount of success against Adesanya on the feet? And that all of a sudden he's just going to get knocked out in the first or second round? Give me a break. DDP is a clunky, mixed martial artist with high volume, a high guard, and the ability to adjust in a fight that is very underrated, by the way. Just look at how DDP was able to adjust in his fight against Strickland while Israel Adesanya was not able to. I mean, every time that I've rewatched DDP versus Strickland, I become more and more impressed with DDP. When I first watched that fight live, I felt like Strickland had done enough. But the more I've gone back to rewatch it, I actually feel like DDP won the second, third, and fourth round. And one of the things that Dricus did very well in that fight is that even though he was having a problem with the jab, he was having a problem hitting Strickland clean, he was having problems controlling Strickland on the ground, DDP had a high volume, he had high grit, he was very durable, and he kept a high pace. And what ended up happening is that because DDP, he was, throwing a lot of strikes, he was going for takedowns, he kind of make Strickland a very reactionary fighter where you could tell that Strickland was having success early on, but as the fight went on, he started to just kind of react to what DDP was doing instead of, landing himself. And that's something that DDP did very well in that fight where even if DDP doesn't have success, he's able to adjust in a fight and keep a high volume for 5 rounds. That was one of the biggest questions that people had in DDP fights against Strickland. People were saying, "Oh, DDP is gonna gas out. He's not gonna be able to handle the pace. He's gonna start to fade after the third round." And what did we see? DDP was able to keep that pace for 5 rounds and actually started to win those middle rounds, where those were the rounds that people were counting on Strickland to win. So it just shows you that DDP can keep a high output for 5 rounds. Also, very important, DDP broke Robert Whittaker. He outworked Strickland. Like I said, the more I've rewatched the fight, the more I see why DDP won. I mean, he has a high volume style with almost 7 strikes a minute, and it's going to work against Adesanya's only 4 strikes per minute. So Izzy doesn't have like a high output. I mean, he has, it's kind of mid. And like I said, people are assuming that DDP is going to try to just kickbox with Izzy. Like if DDP did not just get more takedowns on Strickland out of any middleweight fighter, are people forgetting that Marvin Vettori was able to take down Izzy at ease? And Vettori does not have the control ability, nor the ground and pound, nor the submission ability of a Dricus Du Plessis. Nor do people mention how defensive DDP is on the feet. He has a very high guard. Most of his opponents hit his shoulders. I mean, we saw in that fight against Robert Whittaker when he dropped him with a jab. What did DDP do right after? He kept his guard up. He kept his guard up, and then he was like, "Oh shit, I have Robert Whittaker hurt. Let me actually follow up." So DDP is a very defensive fighter. A lot of people just think about DDP as this brawler, this matador. Oh man, he's so sloppy on the feet. And I will admit, he's not pretty to look at. Like his striking looks pretty ugly, but you cannot discount its effectiveness. It's very, very effective. Like I said, people are acting like he's just going to get KO swinging like these meaty hooks, which is not even what DDP likes to throw. He throws jabs, he throws right overhands, he switches stances, he throws a lot of body kicks, he throws a lot of, head kicks. He's very fast with his head kick. Now, DDP's biggest hurdle in this fight against Izzy is going to be the range, the distance, the footwork, which I think he's more than capable of figuring out. Like, people really overrate Israel Adesanya going into this fight, and I get it. A lot of people are picking Adesanya just based on fear, based on the fact that, every time Adesanya has a chip on his shoulder, he's going to show up with Gyno, and he's going to have this crazy power. But I feel like in that same sentence, you're underrating Dricus' ability. Like, you're underrating his ability to have a high volume style. I think he could have a lot of success on the feet. I think that as Izzy starts to slow down, he can pressure Izzy up against the fence, start landing his right overhands, which if you look at his fight against Strickland, DDP was actually starting to land in his blitz as the fight went on. And I think he'll be more than capable on landing on Adesanya. And I haven't even discussed the ground game. DDP is going to take down Israel Adesanya, and when he does, it's going to be a problem. He can TKO. He has nasty ground and pounds. I mean, we saw how he was able to cut Robert Whittaker when he took him down. He has good judo trips. He has good submission ability, which I do think a submission is definitely on the table in this fight, right? Izzy likes to give up his back. He's never faced a guy like DDP. And I just think that DDP is a true mixed martial artist, and I think he's going to defeat Israel Adesanya, and I think he's going to break him. Like I said, I think a lot of people are falling for the bait. They're just like, "Oh, Adesanya KO." The same people that were saying that against Strickland. And we saw how simple Strickland kept it to defeat someone like Adesanya. And we saw what DDP was able to do against Strickland. That's good that we saw a common opponent. The most recent common opponent is Sean Strickland. And as much as people like to say don't do MMA math, that is very important. Like, how did DDP do against Strickland, and what did Izzy do against Strickland? And you could tell that DDP is just much better at adjusting for a fight. And I think that even if DDP maybe has trouble, early on against Adesanya, maybe he's not able to land, maybe Adesanya, stuffs the takedowns. I think that as the fight goes on, DDP will be able to break him. And like I said, DDP has a high guard. He's very durable. He's not a fighter that's getting dropped left and right. And on the ground, he's a fucking problem for Adesanya, man. He's truly a problem for Adesanya. And I'm going to go with Dricus Du Plessis to break Israel Adesanya. I could see him winning by decision. I mean, TKO is definitely possible, but more by ground and pound, because Israel Adesanya is a very, very durable fighter. He actually has a pretty good chin. I think he could submit Israel Adesanya. But I am tired of people acting like if DDP is just this brawler and he's not this true mixed martial artist, even though time and time again, he's shown against the top level, against guys like Robert Whittaker, against guys like Sean Strickland, that he knows how to win fights, that he has good fight IQ, that he has good fight awareness. He's not a guy like Leon Edwards, who's not going to have that sense of urgency, who's not going to be able to adapt, who's going to, he's going to have that dog in him. And I think a lot of people are underestimated going into this fight just because Israel Adesanya, he has some knockouts. And like I said, I just mentioned all of the decisions that Israel Adesanya has gone to. And if you look at those decisions, they become a very competitive fight, and you get a lot of lackluster performances by Israel Adesanya. And the guys that he's knocked out, no offense, but they're nowhere near as durable as someone like DDP. So I'm going to go with DDP to break Israel Adesanya. And like I said, Israel Adesanya KO early? Possible? Not plausible. I don't think it's likely. I don't really think it's likely. I think DDP is very defensive. I think he's going to adjust for this fight. He knows that Adesanya is a very good striker, that he has the capability to knock him out. And I think a lot of people are underestimating DDP's ability to game plan and adjust in a fight, guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to like and subscribe. Like I said, I'm going with Dricus Du Plessis to win this fight. I know every MMA YouTuber is going to say, is he by KO? Is he by KO? NPC, motherfuckers.